Hi, I'm Emma, and you're watching My Birthway, and this is the last episode of My Birthway, and the next series that I'm doing is Our Baby Way, which is a reflection on him and the age that he is each week and each month. But this episode I thought was going to be really important, and it's important for me to remember this part of the journey, and I think it's important for other people who are going through learning how to nurse or breastfeed their baby, just getting a little bit more information about what people can go through, and how it can be, and just not even really tips, but so much as just understanding the experience. So I wanted to do this video about the beginning of our breastfeeding period, of our breastfeeding time, and just the journey, and the way it is and the way it's been. So right after he was born, I tried to nurse him like immediately because I especially wanted help with my placenta coming out and my uterus, contracting down, which would lessen bleeding and stuff like that. And he didn't really latch at first, which can be normal. Some babies don't for a long time because they might have been drinking a ton of amniotic fluid in the body, and they might have a full stomach, so they might not be hungry. Even though the amniotic fluid isn't feeding them, still, they feel not so hungry. So he didn't really, he thought about it, but he didn't really do it in the very beginning. And then after the birth, I was having some really heavy bleeding, and so even though I already delivered my placenta, so he went to Jason, and they had to work with me, the midwives. So for like a little bit, I didn't try again to breastfeed him because Jason was holding him. And then after that, after the bleeding was stabilized and everything was fine, I tried again, and he did do it. But he didn't latch maybe quite as deep as I had thought that he would or could. So I remember noticing that in the moment and thinking, is this right? But I just wanted him to be attached, and I wanted him to get used to it and all of that. So, plus, in the moments after birth, you're like, what's happening? So he did breastfeed some there. It was a little uncomfortable, I remember noticing at the time. And by there, I mean at the birth center, because we were there for about 5 hours after the birth, and then we came home. So when we got home the first night, we got home at like 5, 6 in the morning. We slept a little, but, and then we were able to kind of nurse in between sleeping and things like that. But it was still kind of uncomfortable. And then the first full day and the second full day is when I started to realize that like nursing was actually hurting, which is a thing that can happen because he doesn't know what he's doing yet with his mouth. I don't know what I'm doing. As a culture, we don't see women breastfeeding in public much, which is upsetting and stupid, and we should see women breastfeeding in public, and because they should feel comfortable. If they don't want to, fine, but if they want to and they don't feel comfortable, that's so stupid and that's a problem. But we don't see it much, so we don't exactly know what to do. It's a natural thing, and there is a certain level of like, once you get the hang of it and an intuition about how to do it, but getting the hang of it is tough. I mentioned in another video that it's kind of like baby learning how to walk. It's natural to learn how to walk, but you still have a lot of trial and error to get there, and it depends on your journey. Some people's is a month's journey to get there, and some people, they can start right away and everything works fine. So, but I noticed for those 2 days, it was like, my nipples were really hurting, and this was still the colostrum period. And he wasn't getting a deep enough latch. We couldn't get the nipple deep enough in his mouth. And part of that was because he wasn't opening his mouth that wide. And I didn't know if that was just a personality, or he was lazy, or he doesn't know what he's doing yet, that kind of thing. So I think within the first day, my nipples were really hurting, but I noticed they were bleeding too. And this was like in the very middle of my nipple where the milk comes out. They were bleeding too, and kind of like scabbing over. And it didn't seem to bother him. He just kept going. And I could tell he was getting enough, even though it was hurting me. And I would do what you read about doing. What you're supposed to do is, if the latch hurts at all, you're supposed to gently unattach them by sticking your finger in. And this is what the lactation consultant told me, is you stick your finger in along their gum line, and then you go back, because obviously they don't have teeth, and you twist, kind of, you don't hurt anything, but you like twist your finger to break the suction so that you can pull the baby off your nipple without it hurting like bejesus. So I was doing that for a while, especially the first day, and trying to get him to reattach, and then I realized he wasn't reattaching any better, and I didn't want to have to keep not feeding him over and over, like, oh, okay, let's reattach endlessly. Because it was like, every time the outcome wasn't any better than the first time. So, and I knew we were going to see the lactation consultant on day 2 of his full days. So he was born late on a Monday night. So this was going to we were going to go see them on Wednesday. So I knew that, and so I wasn't so concerned about. I mean, I was concerned, but I thought, okay, she's really gonna be able to help me because we'd met her before, and I was like, this lady is great. I really like her, and I recommend, even if you're having a teeny bit of trouble, seeing a lactation consultant, because with me it was like, oh, aha, it was like an aha moment, and then it was like, okay, now everything is easy. It was great. So I knew we were going, so I was just more concerned about making sure he was eating, because I felt like she would be able to help me with the pain part of it. And I didn't want to not feed him enough because I'm trying to fix the latch over and over again. So I was like, okay, you're just going to suffer through this. But those 2 nights, they were pretty tough. And I remember it, and I'm sure Jason will remember it for like the rest of his life. It was like, because he's helping me trying to breastfeed, and we're trying to put my nipple deep enough in his mouth that he'll get a good suction and not like a painful one. And we're trying to figure out different positions for that. Like maybe if we, I was laying on my back some, and we were laying him down on my boob from above, because then I could have kind of 2 hands free, or at least 1 hand free, and Jason could have 2 hands free to kind of help aim, because he put his hands near his mouth a bunch, so you're trying to block some hands, at least a little, and you're trying to get him to latch properly, and you're trying to get him to go on to your boob at the right time when his mouth is wide open. So it was like, you really needed like a third person, at least then, is what we felt like, and so it was really tough, and it hurt so bad, and I would like be scared to put him on, because I could see his mouth wasn't open wide enough, but I would think like, maybe this is the widest it's going to get, I should just put him on now. But then I would hesitate and be like, no, or he would start to close down before I could get my boob deep enough in his mouth. And then I would like kind of withdraw and pull him back and be like, ah. And then of course I'm like super upset, and I'm crying, and I'm saying, oh, I'm sorry to him, because I want him to eat. And he's kind of like stressed out, because he's like, why am I not getting food? Because you're like deciding to let me eat, but then you're not at the same time, just for the first little bit. So it was really frustrating and upsetting, just because I felt really bad for him. But he was fine. As soon as he started eating, he'd be like, whatever. And then I would be like, ow. So one thing I was doing, the lactation consultant also mentioned, to help with just sore nipples, and also to help with, making sure that, or helping to combat like a thrush or anything like that, like a candida kind of infection overgrowth that the baby or you could get in their mouth or your boob. Is to let your nipples dry out afterwards. So don't like cover them up. Walk around topless all the time, pretty much. Let them air out, and put some coconut oil on them too, which like is a natural, anti, everything, anti bad stuff, anti, fungal, anti, infection. It's just good. So that was really tough though. And also too, a part of it that wasn't tough is I had a nursing bra, which I recommend anybody getting. And I didn't think, I was like, oh, maybe I don't need one. Maybe I'll just wear a tube top like this all the time. No, the nursing bra is so helpful. And then especially too, I found it was really helpful because it helped me remember which boob to do next. Cause I wasn't going to do like anything to remind me that was like, let me make notes, or let me like do something else. For a while I was wearing like a clip on the top of my bra to remind me. And then I was like, this is uncomfortable. I can't figure it out. I'm not remembering to switch it. It's bothering me. And what I realized that I should do was, because I needed to air out my boob anyway, was leave the boob that I just nursed out until the other one was needed. And then I would go, oh, I'll close this one up and open this one, and that's the one we're feeding. So that was really helpful to remember. Now I can just feel which one needs to go next. I can remember. This one I think makes more milk, which is not that common. Usually a woman's right breast, I think 80% of women's right breast makes more milk. For me, I'm pretty sure it's my left one. It's always denser no matter what, even if it was the one that was just nursed 10 minutes ago. It's usually denser than this one. So then we went to see the lactation consultants on the Wednesday after he was born. And what was so helpful about that was the fact that, it was nice to have support and have someone say, oh, you're doing great stuff. Because so the position, of having the baby sideways like this up against you as opposed to on their back. Like, you're supposed to have them sideways facing your boob. You're supposed to wait till their mouth is wide open and their tongue is down like this. You know, if they're doing this, you wait. You kind of tickle them with your boob, put it under their nose, get them to go, oh yeah, ah, and then you put it in. But the part that we weren't getting right was the angle at which to put my boob in his mouth. That was what we weren't getting right. And once we got the angle right, it allowed us to get in there deeper, and then the suction was right. So we were going straight in, and something about it was like maybe I was getting caught up on his lip down here, and he would clamp down a little too fast, and I wouldn't be able to get deep enough. But the lactation consultant, and Jason drew a hilarious little diagram when we were in there, said, aim up. Like, you know, aim as though you're trying to shoot your boob up his nose, although you're going in his mouth. So it's like this. So when he opens his mouth, you go like this as opposed to just straight back. And that worked. And I could get deeper. And immediately, even though it hurt in the moment when she showed me, because it had been hurting, I was like, I can tell this is a hurting from the past. This isn't like what's happening now is hurting me. Like, I can tell it's way better and it feels normal. And he could get more, you know, jaw action, suction going. It was very clear. It was just one tip and it just saved the day. And if I hadn't had that tip, I don't know if breastfeeding would be good right now. Maybe it'd be horrible and tough and I'd want to give up. You know what I mean? Because that's hard. When you're in pain and bleeding, it's not fun. So another thing that was really helpful was a pillow that my friend let me borrow that also the birth center recommended. It's called My Breast Friend. And it's like a wraparound pillow that goes around you, and it has two little bumps kind of raised on either side to kind of help prop up the baby's head. And you put it all the way up under your boob so that the baby is like on a shelf right by your boob, and you don't have to worry about holding them up at the same time as aiming. Because you have to think about positions and all this stuff. It's complicated. So when you're ready and you're in the right position, you're supposed to, instead of pushing the baby's head towards your boob or, putting your boob towards them, you stay still and you hold the back of their head like this. Well, I can't show you so well with him, but like this, like with the neck and the head together. My angle's slightly bad, but because he's sleeping, he's done nursing. You hold their, here and here, so that when their mouth is wide open, you push their whole kind of upper body, because the lactation consultant pointed out is anyone, baby or adult, when you push their head, they resist. They go, ah, because it's not, you don't want someone pushing on your head. I think it's a survival instinct. You don't do that. So you want to push their whole upper body, and then they'll just, go with it. And they won't fight you and not latch properly. So you just move swiftly and with force, but not bad force. Move them on and hold them there, and don't, like, there's a follow through that Jason kept talking about. Like, he was like, I noticed what she was showing you. It's a follow through, like with sports. You don't throw a ball like this and stop. You throw a ball like this and you loose and you keep your arm going. So there's like a follow through with it, and you hold them on there. And if you want to kind of squeeze your boob a little to help and do different, positions, there's like the hamburger and the hot dog to like make the nipple shaped right, that is something important too. And then other positions that are helpful. I mean, this kind of position in the beginning when they're newborn, and then there's also the football hold, which is holding them just with one arm here and like their head is here. Lots of different positions that it's different for different people. And I'll talk more in a minute about the ones that have been better for me. But I just really want to say that the lactation consultant is so important. Finding a good one and having access to one, because it can really save the day, like times a bazillion. I'm going to stop here for a second, and we're going to travel on to part 2. So check out part 2, and I'll see you in a second for that video.